It has been more than a decade since Manchester City were fully acquired by Sheikh Mansour and the City Football Group in September 2008. City's new owners laid down the gauntlet with the signing of Robinho from Real Madrid, along with a handful of January arrivals, but the citizens actually dropped down a position from the previous campaign and finished 10th. The 2009-10 season, which is the subject of this video, was Man City's first full season under their new regime, and it represented a sizable move in the right direction. Mark Hughes was dismissed in December 2009, and his replacement Roberto Mancini guided the club to a 5th place finish. That was Man City's highest league finish in 18 years, and within 2 years they would win both the FA Cup and the Premier League. To be clear, this is the 11 that started most frequently for Manchester City in the 2010 season a decade ago in all competitions. Here is Manchester City's 2010-11, where are they now? Shay Given, Derby County goalkeeping coach. One of 4 players signed by Manchester City in the January 2009 transfer window, Shay Given was actually a relatively inexpensive purchase by Mansour-era standards. Brought in from Newcastle United for around £6 million, Given was already a vastly experienced number 1 who'd long been among the most accomplished goalkeepers in the Premier League during his more than 450 appearances at St James's Park. Given only spent 18 months as first choice at the Etihad, as Joe Hart's inspired form on loan at Birmingham City convinced Roberto Mancini to make the Englishman his number 1. Given departed in a £3.5 million move to Aston Villa, where he spent 4 years, before ending his career as a backup option at Stoke City. The 43-year-old hung up his gloves 3 years ago, and now works as a goalkeeping coach at Derby County, having been appointed during Frank Lampard's time at the club. Pablo Zabaleta, West Ham. Pablo Zabaleta recently returned to the Etihad Stadium with West Ham United, an enforced substitution due to the Hammers' injury problems at right back. Zabaleta returns to rapturous applause from the Manchester City faithful, and rightly so given the Argentine's 9 years of stellar service to the Manchester club. Zabaleta joined Man City on August 31, 2008, one day before Sheikh Mansour's arrival, and he rejected an offer from Juventus in order to make the move possible. That rather set the tone for Zabaleta's time in Manchester, as he enshrined himself in Man City folklore through his combination of character, professionalism and talent. Zabaleta made 333 appearances in a Manchester City shirt, once making the PFA Team of the Year, before joining West Ham on a free transfer in 2017. The 35-year-old fullback has since played 79 games for West Ham, but this will reportedly be his final season in the Premier League, and possibly his final season in professional football altogether. KOLO TOURE, Leicester City coach. Manchester City signed a handful of Arsenal players in their early years under Sheikh Mansour's ownership, including KOLO TOURE, who arrived for a fee of £16 million in July 2009. Toure had played over 300 games for Arsenal, including 55 in their 2003-04 Invincible campaign, and he went on to spend 4 seasons at the Etihad. Toure was only a regular fixture in 2 of them, registering just over 100 appearances in total, but he too became a bit of a cult hero following the arrival of his brother Yaya and that famous chant. KOLO left for Liverpool in 2013, and he has followed Brendan Rodgers around ever since. He retired from the playing side of the game in 2017 to become a coach at Celtic, before heading to Leicester City along with Rodgers last season. Vincent Kompany, Anderlecht. A Manchester City legend who will go down as one of the citizens' all-time greatest players, Vincent Kompany was signed by the club for just £6 million from Hamburg a couple of weeks before their ownership change. Whilst many others fell by the wayside, Kompany stuck around, moving from midfield to centre-back and becoming a real leader under Roberto Mancini. His leadership credentials were later acknowledged when Kompany inherited the armband as club captain, and the Belgian international spent 11 seasons at the Etihad in total. During that time, injuries restricted Kompany to 360 appearances, but he remained an inspirational figure even while sidelined. During his final season with the club, last season, Kompany returned from injury to become a mainstay in Pep Guardiola's back line, providing a real steadying influence in addition to scoring a really important and world-class goal against Leicester City. The 33-year-old returned to Anderlecht in the summer as player-manager, but he has since relinquished some of his off-field responsibilities in what has been a pretty dreadful campaign for the Belgian outfit. Wayne Bridge, Chelsea coach. Wayne Bridge was only Man City's second signing of the Mansour era, following Robinho, as one of the first of their 4 January 2009 arrivals. Bridge arrived for a fee of £10 million from Chelsea, where he had been struggling for some time to dislodge Ashley Cole, and he would endure similar problems, this time with Alexander Kolarov, at the Etihad. Bridge was Man City's regular left-back in the 2009-10 campaign, registering 28 appearances, and he made just 8 appearances and was twice loaned out over the next 2 seasons. The former England international, who was a very capable fullback, left Man City in a move to Reading in 2013, but retired following just 12 appearances for the Royals. Now aged 39, Bridge has made appearances on reality TV shows, played professional poker, and worked in football media since his retirement, in addition to coaching at Chelsea under his former teammate Frank Lampard. Gareth Barry, West Brom. No player has made more top-flight appearances in English football since 1992 than Gareth Barry, and 132 of the Sussex native's 653 Premier League appearances came during his 4 seasons with Manchester City. Following a rather drawn-out transfer saga, Barry joined Man City in a deal worth £12 million as one of 3 players to be signed by Mark Hughes on the first day of the 2009 summer transfer window. Barry went from being an all-action midfielder who scored a fair few goals for Aston Villa to a much more deep-lying role at Man City, one which probably helped extend his career so far into his 30s. Barry made 175 appearances for Manchester City and was a regular as they won their first top-flight league title since the 1960s. Barry spent the next 4 seasons at Everton before returning to Birmingham in a move to West Brom. Aged 38, Barry is still with the Championship table toppers, although he has only registered 5 appearances this season in what is surely his final campaign. Nigel de Jong, Al-Shahania. Gareth Barry wasn't the only aggressive midfield enforcer at Manchester City a decade ago, and Nigel de Jong lived up to his many nicknames during his time in the Premier League. Those nicknames include the likes of Lawnmower and Destroyer, and de Jong holds the rare distinction of being the only player not to have been sent off in a World Cup final despite trying to slice an opponent in half. The Dutchman was Man City's second most expensive signing behind Robinho in Mansour's first season, arriving mid-season in 2008-09 from Hamburg. He spent 4 seasons in Manchester, registering 137 appearances before a potential £5 million move to AC Milan. Stints at LA Galaxy, Galatasaray and Mainz have followed, but de Jong has spent the last 18 months in Qatar. The 35-year-old spent last season playing for Al Ahly and now plays for Al-Shahania. Shaun Wright-Phillips, retired. Manchester City fans will always reserve a special place in their hearts for Shaun Wright-Phillips, who lit up a not particularly awe-inspiring era in the club's history in the early 2000s. In truth, his return was less spectacular, but he still registered enough appearances in the 2009-10 season to make this 11. The quick and diminutive wideman returned to City for £8.5 million a few days before their takeover, just 3 seasons after he left the club for Chelsea in a move worth over £20 million. Following 2 seasons as a regular and 1 season in and out the side, Wright-Phillips became one of a number of high-profile QPR signings in 2011. As with most of those signings, Wright-Phillips' time at Loftus Road wasn't an enormous success, and he departed sometime later to link up with Bradley Wright-Phillips at New York Red Bulls. The former England international retired in 2017 off the back of a brief stint with Phoenix Rising, and if you want to feel really old, his son now captains England's under-16s. Craig Bellamy, Anderlecht coach. There are a few familiar faces to Manchester City fans at Anderlecht these days, including former club captain Vincent Kompany, Samir Nasri, and Craig Bellamy. Unlike the other 2, Bellamy isn't playing for the club, with his interest lying solely on the coaching side of club operations. Bellamy was among Mark Hughes' primary targets as Man City manager, and he set the club back a reported £14 million when he arrived from West Ham. The 2009-10 campaign was Bellamy's only full season with the club, and he scored 11 goals in 40 games before being deemed surplus to requirements following fresh attacking recruits being brought in. Bellamy made a sensational loan move back to Cardiff City, followed by a season at Liverpool before returning to Cardiff where he ended his career in 2014. The 40-year-old went into coaching with the Bluebirds, not without controversy, and he now coaches Anderlecht's under-21 team. Carlos Tevez, Boca Juniors. Whilst Robinho was the most expensive of Man City's early Mansour-era signings, the arrival of Carlos Tevez was arguably even more significant. Tevez had spent the previous 2 seasons with City's bitter rivals Manchester United, forming a sensational attacking trio alongside Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo. Tevez's energy and tenacity suited Sir Alex's side down to the ground, and United had been keen to sign the Argentine, who was owned by the investment fund MSI. The fact that Manchester City was still able to sign Tevez under those circumstances was evidence of their new financial might and of the fact that they had the status to attract players with no lack of suitors. Tevez had 2 excellent seasons at the Etihad before becoming a bit of a troublemaker, and he joined Juventus in 2013. The 36-year-old is currently in his third stint with Boca Juniors, with whom he scored an excellent goal at the weekend, and he will most likely retire at the end of this season. Emmanuel Adebayor, Club Olympia. I said earlier that Man City had a bit of a punch-on for Arsenal players in their early Mansour era, and the first arrival at the Etihad from the Emirates was centre-forward Emmanuel Adebayor. The evergreen Togolese marksman had an absolutely superb 2007-08 season and a decent 2008-09 campaign. Manchester City had to pay £25 million to acquire his services from Arsenal, and Adebayor caused a bit of a stir following his indiscreet celebrations against his former club in the 2009-10 campaign. Adebayor had a decent debut campaign with Man City, but his time with the club would be short-lived. He departed on loan for Real Madrid midway through his second season before joining Arsenal's North London rivals Tottenham. Stints at Crystal Palace, Istanbul Başakşehir and Kayserispor followed before Adebayor's most recent move to Paraguayan outfit Club Olympia this month, aged 35, which ranks among the strangest transfers in recent memory. That is it for Man City's most frequent starting 11 during the 2010 campaign, but I will quickly point out, as many of you will already know, that Adebayor is now a teammate of Roque Santa Cruz's at Club Olympia. Santa Cruz scored 4 goals in 22 games for Man City in the 09-10 campaign, and his move to Club Olympia in 2016, who were his first club, is a little less unusual than Adebayor's. Elsewhere, Steve Van Arden is currently a free agent, Julian Lescott is now back at the club working as a lone player liaison, and Adam Johnson is a registered sex offender, currently without a club. Thank you all for watching today's video, I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to hit the like button if you did, leave your views along with any future video ideas in the comments, and make sure you are subscribed to HITC Sevens.